I'm comfortable.
Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Fraser Planning Commission to order with a roll call.
Council Lauterpack,
Thanks.
Bob Ganusi, Brian Sirkvenick.
Thank you. Margaret Bowles.
Andy Miller, thank you. Have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, so a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, that was just the minutes for June 23rd. Okay, so any open forum? Do we have anybody online or Wendy, anybody online? Nope, okay. So we don't have anybody for open forum, nobody in the audience either. So okay, so we'll move on to our sole agenda item, which is the discussion and possible action on the comprehensive plan.
Great, thank you, Andy. So the item on the agenda this evening is a review of what's being called at this time kind of the recommendations piece of the comprehensive plan. This will kind of form the core of the actual text document of the plan itself. I think previously what the Planning Commission, the board, and the public have seen are things like the future land use map, the downtown vision plan, and some maps related to transportation infrastructure and things like that. So this is really one of the key kind of text pieces of the plan. It's organized into different levels of recommendations meant to go from the high level vision statements and goals down to more specific strategy statements, and then the lowest level, or really, I guess, highest level of detail being action items. So what we have right now, and I'll go ahead and share the document as I continue to talk through it, is a review of the vision, goal, and strategy statements. I know I sent this document to you all about a week ago, but just kind of to talk through how it's organized here on the first page. So there's various topic areas that this plan covers, such as transportation, land use, housing, arts and culture, economic development, etc. So each of those topic areas has a high-level vision statement. And then within those topic areas, there's several goals, and then each goal has a strategy of, okay, how can we accomplish that goal? There are some action statements in this document right now. Some of the strategies don't have any actions tied to them at this time, but that's certainly something we can discuss now. But really the intention is to focus on a bit more of the higher level statements. Something else that I want to emphasize is that this is by no means a static type of document after the comprehensive plan is adopted. This is definitely one of those pieces that town staff, in conjunction with the Planning Commission and the board and the public, will revisit these items. Specifically, the action items, I think, are the things that will change over time, especially in the short term, kind of on a 1 to 3 year basis is probably the timeline that we would look at. And certainly, these vision, goal, and strategy statements can change as well in those kind of interim revisiting of these things. So that's kind of the preface to this. I think maybe 2 different strategies to go through this. We can kind of just go section by section, or if there was any particular section that stood out to you all, if you had a chance to review it over the past week, we can start on some key focus areas and go that way. So I'd leave it up to the Planning Commission, and yeah, happy to help facilitate this discussion. So
one thing, as far as topic areas, I don't see environmental, and it's kind of scattered throughout the document. But I wonder if that's worth an actual topic area. And we had some time ago, we worked on a sustainability plan for Fraser, and maybe that could be referenced here, or I don't know, did you look at that one at all, or? Yeah,
We did. So we do have a couple different topic areas that I would say cover environment more broadly. Probably the closest one is this one here, sustainability and natural resources. A lot of the goal and strategy statements here are, related to, as you see, protecting wildlife habitat, riparian corridors, wetlands, and watersheds, as well as things like energy efficiency, green building design,
okay,
etc. We also have a section on parks, open space, and trails. Again, that touches on some of this as well. There's certainly some overlap there, certainly the land use section. And we do have a action item specific to at least
oh,
doing
there's a sustainability
yeah,
plan, right?
doing a inventory of greenhouse gas emissions, because that 2016 sustainability plan actually had a I don't know what the right term is, kind of benchmark year or kind of check-in year or goal year, I believe of 2025 or maybe 26. So we are basically due to kind of reevaluate that and track, okay, how did the town do over that at that time period?
Okay,
So
so it is there, yeah.
yes,
And air quality was part of the environment that I didn't see addressed. That I thought might fit under that, but I'm not sure.
yeah,
Yep, with increased growth and traffic and wood stoves and campfires in the summertime, and had one of those the other night. It was lovely. I had the house all nice and open and enjoying the evening breezes, and the guy across the street lights a campfire, so
mhm.
so anyway, air quality is something that I'm not sure if made it in, but
I did a quick search for air quality and I didn't see it come
Yeah.
up, but I do think that could come.
that's more the environmental stuff seems to it does really good job of addressing wetlands and
Yeah.
nature, but we need to keep a healthy environment for people in town too. So as far as air, especially as far as air quality goes, so,
Yeah.
okay. That was just a couple overall things that I was trying to fit into the plan. But should we just go section by section? Do you feel, those folks?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah. So community,
Yeah, I'll come back up. I'm just leaving a note about adding something, whether it's a strategy or an action item,
Yeah.
related to air quality.
that's been a concern in the wintertime too, with the snowmaking and, the fogs that descend on Fraser. It's been an ongoing issue with people. And it'll get worse as we get more people, because we are down in a valley where things sink, especially in the wintertime as far as pollution goes. So,
Certainly.
so on the community section, any thoughts or?
Well, I was at Mayor's Hours one Tuesday, and there was 3 people that came in that aren't citizens of Fraser, but are very interested in becoming involved in the community.
Mhm.
And so I think this Leadership Citizens Academy would be really something that would be a good idea. I think
Sure.
there's a lot of skills that people have, and they're retiring or retired and they want to contribute. And we should use them.
Yeah. And I think there were some references in here to the overall area, cooperation with Winter Park. And maybe that, I'm not sure if it addressed unincorporated Grant County too, which it should, of course, since we have so many high density areas around the community. I mean, the Winter Park Ranch, of course, is the big one, but Icebox, and we've got a lot of surrounding subdivisions that are pretty dense populations, and a lot of people that don't live in town but want to be involved.
Yeah.
And this group was from Elkhorn Reserve, so
Mm-hmm.
I think that encouraging people from even further out is a good idea.
Elkhorn Reserve is,
Up Kent Road 8, the very end of
Okay,
County
all right.
Road 8,
yeah,
not at the very end, but
yeah,
when the pavement.
yeah, on the
Start.
pavement, yeah, yeah.
Andy, I see we can't get rid of that word funky. It keeps popping back up. It just won't die.
Well,
It just won't go away.
so Bob, we had a reunion of Fraser Valley folks from the funky
From the
era.
funky era.
And I don't know, Peggy, did you go at all, or?
I need to start going. I wasn't there exactly in
Yeah.
the 70s, but I was there in the 60s
Yeah.
here.
But Bob, there were, I want to say, over 100 people. I mean, it was a pretty amazing gathering. And what's kind of neat is a lot of people there don't live here anymore and haven't lived here in
Yeah.
years, and they come back to these events just because that part of their life was so magic that they just want to relive it once. And it's been happening once a year now for a while. So, and I had a long talk with Ed Stahl, who was the one that with his buddy, and I should know his friend's name too, but they painted the Leaving Planet Earth sign and put it up.
Yeah.
And over in Ivor's garage, and it's just a wonderful story. And they just both were so amazed. The guy who actually, it was going to be you're entering the twilight zone, but it didn't fit on the sign. So Ed's friend came up with Leaving Planet Earth because it did fit on the sign. And anyway, when I told them that this had become kind of our official town motto, I mean, they were pretty amazed, and I
Yeah.
think it does really define kind of that balance between,
Yeah.
the modern community, but a community that really has roots and strange logging days, I mean, we
Yeah.
go way back. We've got all sorts of odd things that have happened in this community that make it really what it is. So I mean, when it was half loggers and half skiers in the 40s and 50s, there
Right.
were some wild fights and killings and all sorts of things that happened as one culture replaced another.
Yeah.
But we never lost that logging part of it either. I mean,
Oh.
luckily, we're so forestry. But and then the funk part of it kind of comes in the hippie era when
Right.
we had a lot of hippies here.
Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, my Aunt
They're
Virginia
still
said,
here.
Yeah.
yeah. My Aunt Virginia, who wrote Doc Susie, said that in Fraser, every dog has a hippie.
Yeah.
So, so in those days. So I don't know. I'm glad we're hanging on to that. And I don't know. Bob.
Is there any way to get more copies of her Miller's End book? Because everybody should read that.
Yeah. Well, right now she's trying to get Doc Susie back again. All the electronic copies disappeared. They're trying to. She and a couple, her son Keith, are trying to get Doc Susie back under print again. So, but yeah, we should get Ski Lodge. I don't know. If I want to see Ski Lodge back, and I've got a pretty nefarious role in that book. But
It's a great book.
she renamed Friday. I don't know why she didn't rename me. Anyway,
My goodness.
so, but Ski Lodge is just really captured that era pretty well. So,
Hmm.
but I'm interested in your thoughts, Bob. I know that we've had some pushback. on
I
that.
mean, I'm not for it or against it. Okay.
Yeah,
I just think that, it's an older word, an older expression. I'm not sure that Gen Z or whatever we're up to now in the alphabet even would know what we mean by it
yeah,
without some sort of education.
yeah,
So I don't know. It's just kind of like a little bit of nostalgia there,
yeah.
I guess, for the people who are old enough to remember it. But I'm just saying, there's been discussions that I've heard over the years that I've participated here on the planning commission. Some people want to get rid of it. Some people want to hang on to it. So
Yeah,
I think the only one that wanted to get rid of it was Parnell.
I think that's the only person I've heard say that.
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
Please don't take my comment as being an opposition to it.
no, it's
I'm
fine.
It's a good discussion.
I'm
It
just
really is.
thinking that,
Yeah,
as much as we've talked about it, it just keeps coming back and coming back. So
Yeah.
I guess the fact that it does makes it really part of the fabric of our community.
yeah,
I think part of the challenge is maybe finding an equivalent word that, I am of a different generation, but funky means like cool and interesting and unique, of a certain era. Sure, maybe it has that connotation, but I think it captures a lot of different things. But yeah, I know it provokes some strong emotions sometimes either way, but yeah, if there's no strong objection, we can just leave it in for now.
Got a good alliteration with Fraser too.
Yeah, Funky
Yeah.
Fraser.
Mhm.
Well, and one other story comes to mind. Years ago, Telluride made a really heavy duty effort to clean the town up, get rid of all the junk, do everything they could to sanitize it basically. And when they got done, there was a lot of feedback to bring some of that junk back in again to try and make Telluride, give it a taste of its mining past. And
Mhm.
they lost, of course. Telluride has pretty much gone the route of Disneyland, but we're trying to avoid that Disneyfication. I mean, the theme park type thing that resorts tend to trend towards. So it's something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess they didn't want to become called Junkie Telluride.
I did have a thought on C. Yeah, sure, no worries. C22 talked about provide signage at historic landmarks and educate on building history and significance. And this is kind of your course idea too, is Charlie Clayton's Walking Tour of Fraser.
Mm.
I think that book is
I
still
read
around,
that.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got on the board.
And it might be worth kind of formalizing that book and having it available and maybe marking some of these places. I get people all the time on Doc Susie over there wondering where Doc Susie's house is across the tracks. So, but yeah, it's kind of maybe reinvigorate that walking tour of Fraser. So,
I like that.
I'm glad on C2 in the heading, ensure and development enhances visual character of the area and blending modern design with unique charm. I think that's key, that we aren't, like you say, going back to Disney World of trying to recreate this Old West, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a shootout in the OK Corral.
Sure.
concept.
they're still doing that down there too in Tombstone. So,
So anyway, I think that's good because obviously we want people to buy the real estate and, they're not looking to live in an Old West town.
yeah. Well, and the funky kind of helps meld several different things together where you could do Old West, and out of that, but also do some more things that are innovative.
Yeah.
I did get a chairlift ride last winter with a young woman that was an architect in this modern architecture. And I love our developers down here with these new buildings, but I asked her, could you guys maybe get off of black, and square? Maybe start to dress some of the stuff up a little bit, but yeah, so.
But it's, but it is, people want things that are more contemporary with big
Yep.
windows and, take advantage of the views,
Yeah,
materials that are fire resistant and,
yeah. So we're trying, this helps us kind of think balance it. Some of the wording in here seems to,
I think that's, the wording is good.
yeah. Okay. And then the C2.3, I think if we could add a bullet point possibly for trying to maintain view corridors, at least some, especially downtown where people can see through the buildings and still see the mountains. I mean, people talk to me all the time about how much I think this place has changed and I must be so brokenhearted about it, but I just always tell people, 80% of our county is public land. You put your eyes up and the mountains are there, but pretty soon they might not be if we don't talk about some ways. We might maintain ways for people to see the mountains even downtown where we've got high density. So
Yeah. Yeah, view corridors is something that I learned about when I was living in Denver, when I was on my neighborhood organization. They have ordinances for that. So if we wanted to, pick a few,
yeah,
say, sorry, this area can only go to 25 feet or, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. It's something we could change in the zoning. if we wanted
or ways to line up some of the streets so that they go through parklands or open spaces somewhere that, it pops through occasionally where the mountains are there. So
Yeah. What would you say are maybe some key view corridors to try and protect? I mean, I think Byers Peak comes to my mind, certainly.
well, we
but-
have a view we have a view anywhere you look.
Right.
So I think if you created a corridor, you're going to see mainly the divide, obviously, out west towards Byers, but those would be the, I guess, eastern views and western towards Byers. Well, and south through the ski area. I mean,
Right. It's nice. I mean, our stretch of 40 points right at the ski resort. So
Yeah,
we
it
have
does,
that
yeah.
natural
Yeah.
view corridor.
So anything more on the C section? Community? So land use. It's a long section. There's a lot in here for
Yeah.
sure. So
Yeah, so starting with the vision statement, talks about growing thoughtfully and sustainably, ensuring a vibrant community that meets needs of both current and future residents, and preserving character. Again, pretty broad, hopefully uncontroversial statement. Um, talking about promoting a balanced mix of land uses, while also preserving green spaces, protecting natural resources.
So, we've talked a little bit of in LU 3.1, the impact fee section. We talked about housing impact fees possibly being levied on per square foot on projects with exemptions for full-time housing. So for folks that are building, it would be kind of a deed restriction thing for a house that's being built by a local. I don't know if that's worth really I think it is worth trying to begin serious discussions of. So that's of course the fee that has built up the employee housing in Snowmass Village. They luckily put it in place a long time ago. But I still think it's worth discussing. So
I do believe that's something we could look to implement. I forget where that falls in the statutory versus home rule distinction as far as the town's ability to implement something like that. But yes, I do believe that's something, a desired action item from this commission, from the board, and from the public. So
it's gonna be a controversial topic for sure.
yeah. And
Well, it was controversial, I think, and Clark was gonna be against it, but it applies to small sections of the community, really. I mean, Old Town, Victoria, Victoria Village. But because we're now surrounded by developers.
Yeah,
And it's gonna get harder and harder to build your own house.
it is.
I mean, it just,
But
reality.
well, maybe with the annexation, it might not be. Maybe neighborhoods can be created out there that it would foster that sort of project. So
It'll be interesting. In fact, I just read an article and I was going to copy it and bring it in today, but it was really interesting about what's happened nationwide in terms of zoning and how we became this urban sprawl country where Europe is not like that. And
Yeah.
it's, the car, and the West has really done it. And California is in such a world of hurt because they've allowed this single family, big lot, and the infrastructure is now decaying, and who's going to pay for it? And you've got this problem where everybody now is visualizing that they want to be in someplace closer with this more urban feeling where you've got retail and vertical, and you're not going this way, you're going this way, which then you've got views to worry about, and people are going to complain because they're used to being out there instead of closer in. It's really an interesting article just to think about where we are going to end up going as a nation and as a community. Yes, it's we're facing limited resources, and every time you go out, the resources are getting expanded.
well, I think we're on the right track with density, but we have to think about the side impacts and having to do with quality of life and noise and speeds and all the things that we just have to behave better when we live closer together. So, but somehow we have to address some way to build up housing reserve funds in ways that we can keep people housed. So,
And this is all part of it, is
Yeah.
making it more affordable.
yeah. And that impact fee obviously couldn't be on Grand Park, but it could be on Grand.
Well, it
af-
could be
after-
because we
after
have a
the-
do-over on 2028.
Yeah, after the annexation agreement expires,
Yeah.
exactly. So these would be good things to have in place as that discussion ramps up. So.
Yeah.
And there's a section in here on annexation agreements. And I've discussed this once before, but I really think maybe it's check with Northwest Cog if you would. I think it's gypsum. But one of our towns does And our district does require plans with annexations. They don't go with pre-annexation agreements, they go with plans. And I just think that that would help keep us out of trouble. If these properties to the north of us, they don't have to come with final plans, but with sketch plans. So we see what land use they're proposing. And that could be changed as they go through the process after they annex, but I really think we need a good idea of what's gonna happen rather than trying to build these annexation agreements that just end up being really difficult to predict, so.
I have just a general question.
Mhm.
Where does Byers Peak Ranch stand in terms of a future potential annexation?
Which Byers Peak Ranch?
You mean the right next to town where
Yeah,
yeah, well, Clark is refusing to annex because of an action that I took some time ago where their annexation was overturned by the voters.
well,
So he keeps bringing that up, so. And
But-
right now, there's no plating out there. I think you're still on the planning commission, aren't you? for
Right.
that?
well,
And I think all of his plans out there. have
His,
expired, I believe, so,
he's got his plans in place for the mill apartments.
right,
And I think he's got 2 more buildings that he's ready to do.
yeah,
But beyond that, he doesn't have anything because now he's in Dutch with the planning commission over there.
right,
And
and
that-
all of his county plans have expired, right?
Yes,
So, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
And so, I'm not sensing any interest in them, just letting him renew them.
yeah,
And he's got a project that was gonna go behind the mill apartments that are gonna be kind of like micro cottages.
right,
And when he first introduced it, it was a pretty cool concept. I kind of like the idea.
yeah,
Because it was gonna be more affordable, whatever that means these days, more affordable housing. And, but he was getting some zoning, variances
right,
approved, and he let those lapse. or
Right.
He let his plan lapse. So now there's little chance he's gonna get it reapproved.
I hope not. I
Well,
mean,
maybe I
And-
would love to see it come back into the town.
I would,
and,
too, and I always tell
I'm
Clark
just
whenever he
saying-
asks me about it,
I'm
so,
just saying that the current planning commission over there and, our Chris Manguso is adamant that she's not gonna let those micro cottages come back in. I'm just speaking, you didn't hear
Well-
this from me, but, but I was, in fact, she made a comment to me, says, well, maybe Clark will just want to get back in the town of Fraser then.
I hope so.
So.
That would be the
it-
perfect
It
scenario.
might be that we could approach Clark and say, hey, if you want to still do that micro cottage project, why don't you bring Byers Peak back into the town of Fraser?
I don't think the town's ever done anything but give him the word that he's more than welcome to come back in,
Yep.
so,
Yep.
so,
And the other Byers Peak Ranch, that would be another thing is that is contiguous. And if we could convince him, although there's some question of what kind of water rights he has and if he has the amount that he needs to bring in. Because apparently Clark ended up with his water rights. I don't know how, but anyway, then you surround Clark.
yeah.
You could force it.
Is
Yeah.
there a contiguous boundary out there to the other?
Well,
branch?
yeah, up County Road, where is it?
73?
Or 72.
72. as it
Yeah,
goes.
72, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so to me, that would be a huge win for the entire community because those 30-acre lots, I mean, that's just, I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
No, not for a town.
Yeah.
So,
So that's always, and Cindy Soffel's divorce could be the trigger on this whole thing, so.
yeah, okay. Yeah, Legacy Park Ranch is a perfect example of low density subdivisions that cost taxpayers a lot of money.
Yeah.
Those roads out there cost the county a fortune to plow. And there's not even any hope of ever getting any kind of property tax revenue that would cover that, so.
Right.
So that's, yeah, that's a perfect example of sprawl. Okay,
All the more reason to create and adopt a standard annexation policy agreement.
Yes.
I think the requirement to, have a sketch plan of some detail with, any annexation petition is certainly something that we would likely include in that policy. But yes, good discussion.
and that model, if you talk to John Staveney, he could tell you which town has that, so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Chipson, but I'm sorry, I've forgotten that.
No,
So
it's
but John
okay.
would know.
Any other comments on the land use section?
So when you say reevaluate current land dedication and fee in lieu requirements for parks and schools. Is that,
Oh, yeah. Could we use the word public parks all the time?
yes.
Yes,
Yes,
well, I will also state in this context, land dedication means giving land to the town. So,
But
so
there's a lot of discussion of parks in here. And we've got some private parks that really are not doing the town much good, so.
sure. Certainly we can maybe touch on that in the parks, recreation,
yeah,
open space
okay,
trail section. I think for the purpose of this action item, we do have land dedication requirements for new subdivisions to dedicate land for parks and schools, or if they do not dedicate that land, pay a fee in lieu of that land dedication.
And it's assume public parks then.
Yes,
I don't think we want them to pay a fee. I think we want them to dedicate it. So get rid of the in lieu, because
You never
Wow.
know what we want to do though in the future.
I think just
when
broadly,
you do the in lieu stuff, you're just. It doesn't work out, and especially in housing, and it probably won't work, and it didn't work out in schools, and they just have that gives them an out.
Well, but it's size though, Peggy, when you've got a
Yeah.
real small, just a single building with 4 units. You can't really dedicate parkland on a small.
Yeah, but
parcel.
it's not, you're not having to do that on, I'm thinking annexations, big parcels when you come in.
Yeah,
I mean, it's,
yes, or, well,
I think generally speaking, the point I was going to make was simply that those requirements in our code were originally established in, I believe, 1997. And I think especially with the parkland dedication requirements, they really haven't been changed or reevaluated over that time. Since that time, the school district has done updated kind of impact fee studies essentially to change the dollar amount associated with the fee in lieu for school land dedication. But I think really the town needs to revisit the parkland requirements. In staff's opinion, one of the advantages of the fee in lieu with parks specifically is that the town already has a significant public open space area, the Cousins Ranch open space, that in the 2018 master plan, there's quite a bit of identified capital improvements for recreation, one of which just broke ground being the bike park. But there's certainly other improvements that could be made within that area, even just things like additional trails and lookouts and picnic tables and things like that. And that fee in lieu of parkland dedication, that money could go straight towards, improvements in the Cousins Ranch open space, just for example.
yeah.
So I think that's one kind of avenue to where, in staff's opinion, it might be a good idea when we reevaluate that parkland dedication regulation and policy to maybe keep that fee in lieu provision.
But I think Peggy makes a good point. If the annexation is large enough,
Mhm.
Yeah,
you would like the park there. So maybe when you do that reevaluation to kind of address both issues,
Absolutely.
maybe you put a minimum size on, if an annexation brings in land greater than so many acres,
You
then
must provide.
then
Yeah,
you must provide.
absolutely.
Below that amount of land, then you can do fee in lieu of. I would like that.
Yes.
and, and I see, I mean, Sarah's done an amazing job of getting grants, so I don't think that the developer needs to be buying park benches. I think we can get a grant for a park. right?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
I think land is what's the key, and it doesn't have to be a maintained park with grass and, you know, just open space with trails is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess
Yeah,
again,
and
just to,
proximity is important. too, Peg, and we want parks close to everybody.
Right.
That's one of the, every study you read of urban planning tells you that parks need to be close to where kids are
Right.
and where adults are, so they can recreate right there.
Yeah.
And that's what brings neighborhoods together too, are these smaller parks. So
yeah, so absolutely, we want to ensure that any large subdivisions provide that open space and don't just take the fee in lieu option. But I do think it serves its purpose in
Yeah.
some instances.
another example is the park down here, next to where the buildings that we've been working on, and they can't find, I mean, that little tiny park right there's is at the end of Fraser or Eisenhower, and where you go up and over and down into the river. So those little link type parks are really important too, and help keep that connectivity that we talk about in here quite a bit. So
Yeah.
connectivity of trails and pedestrian ways. So
Well, and I think way back when Rendezvous was annexed in, it was 30% for both sides of the highway. And I'm amazed that I look at Rendezvous in Winter Park, and I think there's two small little parks. They did not demand that 30% number. And that little spaceship park is one of them. And if that's the other park, I mean, I don't know what the other park's gonna look like, but
yeah,
they really screwed up, I think, in Winter Park on that.
on the
And-
right, up on the,
And that was done before Rendezvous came in. It was back when, what's his name? Was in Castle Pines, who's the developer that owned that property.
down there where the lodge was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, that was done many years before. Well, maybe it was done in about the same time we did
Yeah.
Rendezvous, but before Rendezvous got involved,
yeah.
that they were the beneficiary of. Now they have all this land to develop in the park. No,
Remember when Drake first listed that property? He went in and had all the trees taken out so that people could see what the view was gonna be. He took a 12-acre parcel and just clear cut it so that his buyers could see what the views were. So,
So the next section is economic development. This is actually one where we just did a quick scroll through. We don't actually have any specific action items at this time, but kind of reading through the strategy statements, they are kind of, closer to action statements in a way. But if there's any thoughts or feedback on any of these.
hard to get past the tourism business. I'm trying to bring in more sustainable
Mhm.
methods of making a living, but it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Is there any feedback on economic development or?
I'm glad that point is in there, for ED2 there. Because like, as we talk about annexations, we have brought up, is there a manufacturing facility that could go in just outside of downtown, in to the north, could a tiny home builder, set up shop out there and
Mhm.
bring a bunch of jobs and
Talking about the log yard out there,
yeah,
yard.
the pole yard, probably
whole yard, I should.
probably not right there because that's so prime for schools and housing and that kind of thing, but maybe just a little down the road, and
Yeah.
then they could still use the train to move their freight around. So I'm glad that it's listed basically.
I like this, support home-based businesses and remote workers through infrastructure improvements and networking opportunities. I think one of the biggest problems we've got is not enough full-time residents, and we're missing the boat because there's a lot of people from Denver who would love to be here full-time, and it's not that hard. We just
Yeah.
have to show them you can do it.
Yeah. And remote working is opening up a lot of people to living in a place like this and earning a good paycheck, and they patronize the restaurants and retail, and
Mhm.
And I feel like for many years, the schools are not being advertised well enough. Because the schools are really good and people always tell me, oh, I can't move up here. I've got kids in high school. They want to turn into lift operators. I go, it's
Mhm.
highly unusual for that to happen.
Sure.
Well, and maybe foster the ski academy at Middle Park High School. They've got some programs, I believe,
Yep. And it,
but that's certainly a drawing point for Vale and the Vale Academy and another, and Steamboat has a summer ski academy and
well, we've got a ski academy. It works really well.
does it?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, it's huge. There's probably 50 or 60 kids that ski every day.
At Middle Park High School.
Mhm.
So maybe foster the growth of that and
Mhm.
and the advertising of that. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I just think broadly speaking, a lot of these deal with the kind of growing or maybe evolving, if that's an okay word to use, beyond a purely tourism-based economy, which I know is the continual challenge, throughout decades of Fraser and Winter Park's history.
But when you see it, other resort communities, they have a strong professional.
Mhm.
There's doctors and lawyers and stockbrokers and all kinds of people that live in Aspen and Vale and Breckenridge and Steamboat.
Mhm.
Sure.
They're not just, doing the tourism stuff.
and we have a closer proximity to Denver and the airport than any of those other
Mhm.
communities do. So
Mhm.
especially now with the train.
Yeah.
So
Okay, housing. So, uh, promoting a variety of housing options, um, encourage mixed-use housing development, where it can make neighborhoods more walkable, build and strengthen partnerships to increase affordable and attainable housing.
so H 1.1
Mhm.
doesn't include the single family option. And I know Peggy, we just talked about that a few minutes ago, but I do think that there's a possibility of having some small lot, the micro cottages you were talking about, Bob, are actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
That could be the next step after
Mhm.
price controlled housing. And of course, Winter Park has done it on a larger scale with larger homes.
Sure.
So that single family should be put into here. So
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
We're just kind of running through them, but
Yeah.
yeah, any specific items like that, that's great.
And that could be part of this annexation discussion. So,
Mhm.
and a discussion with Clark, we hope.
Yeah.
Every time we talk, I bring it up.
Do you? Okay. Yeah, and then implement policies to encourage non-resident homeowners to make properties available for long-term rental.
Mhm.
So the Winter Park program, when they did that temporarily, that worked pretty well, didn't it? Or
I think they filled all the units, that's for sure. And they
Yeah.
got a lot out
Yeah.
of the deal.
a similar program here, do you think? Or
Maybe.
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure housing is still an issue for people who are moving here. Is it the right time for Fraser to be putting money towards it? That's another question. But
yeah,
um, it's worth looking into Winter Parks program to see how it went for the 2 or 3 years that they did it, and then what happened afterwards.
yeah.
Did people just lose their housing as a result of not getting the incentive anymore, or did they continue their long-term rentals? Because if they
Yeah.
continued them, then great. But if it just kicked the can down the road for 2 years, then
And
it's probably not worth it.
Yeah,
The town essentially subsidized or provided an incentive to property owners to do long-term rentals.
Yeah, something like $10,000 every 6 months or something like that, to have long-term rentals in their
Sure.
units.
but it was just a temporary program, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
pretty
it's
big
just
investment.
discontinued at this point?
Yeah, I don't think they're doing it anymore.
But that brings us around to the deed restriction program, which really has never gained much traction, has it, or?
Not as far as I'm aware, we do have a strategy statement, I believe.
H 1.4.
Thank you. Yeah. Or it's, yeah, an action to promote that program, tailor the incentives it provides to be more attractive. I do think it's worth, at a minimum, just better advertisement of that.
Mhm.
But certainly it's something the board needs to budget for and make appropriations. But
Well, and when it started out, it was such a small dollar value. Um, it made sense for a house that was maybe worth $300,000, but now a house that was worth $300,000 is worth $1 million. And so, how do you, as a homeowner, justify even $30,000 a bedroom put a deed restriction on a house? You know,
Yeah.
if it's a 4-bedroom house, you made $120,000 on that deed restriction, but now you can't sell it to anybody outside of the valley. So it's it's an expensive thing if we want to do it right.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
I think that our funds would be better used to do, like we're doing, buying property and putting that property underneath the developer and putting a deed restriction on the building itself and helping with the grants and that kind of thing to get them to make it affordable. And so that we strategically buy this property around the town.
Right. I agree. It's fine that this is in here. I'm not saying to take it out, but
Mhm.
I agree with Peggy. Like if the town can acquire land and then we can
Do what we're doing.
essentially, give the land to a developer so that they can build affordable housing. Um, that yeah, I would rather kind of move in that direction. It's a bigger impact and faster, I feel like.
So at St. Louis Landing, does the town end up owning
Yes.
that? Okay, and that's the other direction. I mean, that's what Snowmass Village owns, all their housing that they've developed over the years. And
But there's pros and cons to that.
yeah,
And I personally think that us being an owner is not necessarily the best way to go.
yeah,
We don't have to have all that money tied up. We don't have to have the risk. We just have to assist with the land underneath them and make them take the risk. And we make the rules on what
Yeah, what the rents or what the for sale offering is.
as long as these agreements don't expire.
well,
Right,
yeah, they're
yeah,
in perpetuity.
perpetuity,
Right.
yeah. You guys, the board's been really good about that.
And
so
then we
far,
can
so,
continue to use our funds instead of tying up
yeah,
multi-millions, and I think that just makes a lot more sense strategically.
yeah. Keep bugging one of the women over at the hardware store. She's living out here in Clark's project and she's alone in a 3-bedroom unit. Because they couldn't find anybody for the 3-bedroom unit and couldn't find her a 1-bedroom unit. And I keep asking her, will you please tell me what your rent is, whether it's more because you're in this 3-bedroom unit or whether you suffered consequences because of that. And she never, I don't know, money doesn't seem to, that's a question I sure want to know about, but we're going to be in this game here pretty soon. I mean, that Clark.
Well, and I think those units are assigned an AMI.
Yeah, right.
That's. And then when you get involved in the management of all this, you got a 3-bedroom unit, you got one guy that's 60% AMI, one guy that's 100%.
Yeah,
The guy that's 60% doesn't ever move out, so you never get in to clean it or figure out what's going on.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of challenges that I don't think we want to be involved in.
Yeah, no, but it'd be interesting to see how Snowmass manages it. My understanding but talking to one of their town officials, they have enough units that they have a full-time department that's all they do is property management. And you're right, Peggy. I mean, that's the other alternative is leave that to developers. It does give you complete control, but anyway, it's
Well, I think if you have an agreement that's written, well, you accomplish what you need
yeah,
to do and you're not buying up some wash and then you can continue to roll it.
This is something the Fraser Valley Partnership can hopefully accomplish is there's such a need here for some standards, a
Mhm.
standardization of all these AMIs, the agreements, the way
Mhm.
that all this works. I mean, it seems like a regional housing authority could help make it easier for everybody to get into it and also level the playing field as far as how, and that would make it easier for the employees that are out there shopping for housing.
Mhm.
And the other part of this that I think we're missing is, how do we vet employers? I mean, the employers, and I don't want to get down on employers because they struggle so much for staff. But can an employer kind of get away with paying low wages, take advantage of the subsidized housing but really have the ability to up their wages and contribute more to this issue. So I don't know, that's an overall question that's pretty thorny to say the least, but it merits looking at, so.
I think it's pretty hard to pay low wages in a community like this when Wendy's advertises what the going rate is.
Yeah, well, but it's still for this community, it's not what somebody has to have, even if where they're 20 an hour or, yeah,
20 an hour does not,
still doesn't get you there.
no, not even
Yeah.
close. I
Yeah.
mean, Parnell was right about that when he spoke, I don't know, a couple weeks ago and a month ago. It's pretty expensive, and you gotta be making almost $40 an hour. Or be a partner with somebody so that you 220s make 40.
Yeah, I do think kind of the employer assisted or employer subsidized housing is a model that is certainly implemented for maybe the largest employers in the county, obviously Winter Park Resort, I think Devil's Thumb Ranch. Um, I do think there could be a role for the town to fill that gap with maybe smaller employers, smaller businesses. And I think that's partly what this H 3.3 is kind of pointing to, so. Yeah. But all good comments and good discussion.
So
And I guess they can't come in. I was thinking, apparently, like Dino's can't come in and say, I want at least 3 units or 5 units, do a master lease, and that's not allowed with some of the grant funding we've gotten.
Hmm.
ITech and
They can't tie up, one employer can't tie up
Yeah.
housing.
so it's
Hmm.
makes it kind of challenging for once they want to buy something and build it themselves and own it.
Right.
But that could be an option the town does if the town owns property and wants a developer to take it over. You could go to a large employer and offer them that ability to build their own housing, so.
Okay.
Any more on housing?
Yeah.
Okay, sustainability and natural resources. So this is where we get into more of the environmental
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah, so strategy 1 talks more about, again, the wildlife habitat area, riparian corridors, preserving and protecting wetlands and watersheds.
So that might be a good place for view corridors because that's a part of natural resources.
Sure. Um,
And how do we get the moose down to the open space and out of the open space?
Maybe take the fence down.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a fence? Oh, the log fence, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. that's- oh, yeah. Maybe along with the underpasses, we get a wildlife
sort of
overpass.
wildlife
yeah.
crossing, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. We need one coming down from Leland Creek.
Well, it'd be worth at least, working with CPAW to see if they're, because we are taking up a huge area of cross valley migration with development now. We don't have the meadow that we used to have between the towns that where wildlife could move from one side of valley to the other, and let's at least talk to CPAW and see if they, what their thoughts are on what we might do to, you know,
How do we get the moose over the railroad tracks?
that's not too much of a problem for them. I don't think it's the highway that, yeah.
Yeah.
But the trains are infrequent enough that,
Right.
So in sustainability, would that include some kind of, there's a new fire code that the state is adopting in, they just adopted it July 1st and we have to adopt ours within, I guess, by next April. But
Yes.
I would think that we would want to have some kind of fire plan.
yeah. Yeah, there's not much talking here about helping to mitigate and prevent natural disasters, and fire is one of the big ones, and flooding too, so.
So certainly the state's model code around wildfire resilient building and site design, we have to adopt that, as you mentioned, by April of next year. Certainly we could add a strategy statement around, encouraging, kind of standards or designs that are kind of even above and beyond those kind of minimum requirements. And even just more broadly, building design and development that is, mitigates risk around natural hazards, whether it's wildfire, flooding, etc. So
I agree with adding all that, but should we have like an actual fire mitigation or a flood mitigation section to this?
Natural disaster section.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost like a outside of town, what can we do?
If fire gets into town.
Right.
One of the things Boulder's doing now after Superior Fire is making sure their open spaces are grazed. So they don't end up with these tall grasses that carry that Superior Fire across the landscape so quickly.
Hmm.
So that's a fairly simple mitigation, so.
Don't encourage them.
What do they,
Yeah.
what do they do? Goats? Yeah.
Grazed
Let's not go there.
grazed or cut.
So Clark's been doing this all along.
Yeah.
Cows and meadows.
And he says that's one of the advantages. At least if there he's got a point, there's
Yeah.
to be so many of them, but. Hey, Michael.
So
In the flood mitigation category, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but I've been trying to get design money for that Fraser River Bend down there, the Safeway River Bend.
Mhm.
And we were turned down by the open lands, and but we are going back to them this fall. So I've got a grant writer that's working on the modifications that the OLRT board asked for, so I still see that as a real clear and present danger to Safeway down there, so. But
Yeah.
those are the things we need to look at, and that was some of the feedback I got from Adam when as you guys are talking about what to do down there and we talked about this, Brian, at Mayor's Hours the other day, trying to maintain as much of these wetlands as we can to help mitigate floods, because that's one mitigation for floods is they have an ability to spread out and absorb into the soils before they can let them to cause damage. So
Mhm.
and there's a lot in here about wetlands for sure.
Mhm. To circle back on kind of the natural disaster hazard mitigation, we do have this section later on, maybe a bit more about, providing services. This TSI is town services and infrastructure. But I do think that sustainability and natural resources strategy or having something a bit more specific to land use, being responsive to hazard risks and things like that, and kind of encouraging more than minimum standards would be appropriate.
So in SNR 1.5, we talk about the use of water efficient landscaping. I really think we need to broach the subject of not just water efficient landscaping, but landscaping that does not require irrigation,
Mhm.
other than after, during the period of time it takes to get established. Because that's our consumptive water use right there. The 90% of the water in houses goes back to the river. Landscaping water does some good for groundwater, but it's pretty much lost. And we have enough water up here. I mean, Tucson can do it. We ought to be able to do it. And every time I go out in the woods, I see all this nice, lovely xeriscape. It looks pretty dang good. So I just think we need to really start to drive that conversation. So.
I think the bullet point added maybe captures that that the town could look to update our landscaping regulations to specifically require vegetation that doesn't need irrigation once it's established.
Yeah. I guess xeriscape is not
Mhm.
a proper term anymore, but whatever term is
It's not.
correct. Yeah. And then 1.6, we talk about community events and ways to get the community and talking about trees. I know that our Kathleen does provide, do we actually have an opportunity to provide trees to people for planting and with some instruction on how to plant them? Seed stock, I mean, not
Yeah.
big trees, but
that could be an opportunity. I'm not sure what the cost of that would be, but
Yeah.
certainly,
CSU
smaller
Ag-
seedlings,
yeah,
yeah.
The CSU Extension Office often has ways to do that in a pretty reasonable fashion, so.
Mhm. Yeah, I know other communities have like a plant a tree day type of thing,
Mhm.
where you, receive a seedling and plant it in your yard. I think that's maybe, I'll just,
And then we're talking about more trees down in the Cousins Ranch open space. It's a really good idea, so.
Yeah.
And then 1.8 talks about stormwater and
Mhm.
just an update. I mean, the stormwater survey that we've been working on through the grant that I've got from the Wendy Gap Environmental Fund is going along really well, but
Mhm.
we had my board's monthly meeting last Friday, and we walked out in the library parking lot, and you guys remember those developments we approved fairly recently, the big lovely buildings that are around the library over there. And we had a lot of questions about drainage and how everything would fit together. I'm gonna walk over there with Paul and take a look at it. I mean, it just didn't fit together very well. I mean, we've got several different stormwater plans that just nothing fits, and it ends up not working. So you've got a holistic regional approach to updated inefficient stormwater infrastructure should be regional in neighborhood. So that we make sure that we go not just project by project, and that was one of the goals of this whole project, this whole survey was to try and prevent us from having to sit down and look at a single plat and decide how this drainage is going to work. We need to be able to plan so that all this fits together. So I'll try to get over there with Paul and take a look at that and see if we can't work with the library and come up with a way we can make all that work over there. They're getting some funding issues, nice.
Mm.
And it's just, it's pretty odd the way it all kind of finally came together, so.
Sure.
And then mainly, we're just trying to capture all of this, of course, before it gets to the river, so.
Mhm.
And it's interesting, all the stuff on the west side of Fraser, the west side of the railroad tracks goes through the elementary school over here, through the backyard of the elementary school.
Mhm.
So it could provide a really nice educational opportunity to create wetlands back there to
Yeah.
help treat that water before it gets to St. Louis Creek, so. And we still depend completely on the Grand County Storm Drainage Design and Criteria Manual, don't we?
We do. That's what our codified stormwater drainage standards are. Um, I know something that's been raised is how can we encourage more, green type of stormwater infrastructure, things like rain gardens and bioswales, et cetera. So whether that's adopting, supplemental or additional regulations to that Grand County manual or providing incentives for developments that opt to do, green infrastructure as opposed to gray, quote unquote, infrastructure for stormwater.
We really need to look at that. I mean,
Mhm.
basically, we're trying to talk about getting stormwater out of pipes and putting it on the surface where it can be seen and maintained and what happens to a pipe in Fraser is that out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
A few years later, it's all jammed up
Mhm.
and it's gone. So plus stormwater is a resource. I mean, we're trying to get it back into the ground and back into our groundwater, not just pipe it straight down and get it into the river. So, because we depend on, we want it going into the ground in fairly high quality way so that we don't mess with our town wells, but the ground is an excellent filter medium too. So
And I think, I don't know if any of you've been to the John Denver Park in Aspen. That's an amazing facility that Aspen created.
mhm.
And it was all done by their Parks and Rec department. But I think that's an opportunity over in the River Walk District is to incorporate and build some wetlands and to mitigate some of this instead of doing it mechanically,
Right.
which is kind of what we're doing on a onesie twosie basis. The Bison Boys build a building and then put this mechanical thing in. And
Yeah.
if it was a regional plan along the river, I think personally that would be a better way to solve the problem.
Yeah. I mean, they're literally taking rainwater off the roofs and putting it in pipes underground and taking it into the stormwater system where that water coming off the roof is high quality liquids. So yeah. So they didn't use John Denver's holding tanks that he had up there in Starwood
No, this is
during the
actually,
during the
it's
energy crisis. No, I was just kidding.
it's amazing.
Do you remember
If you
what-
haven't been, I highly recommend.
Remember when that
everybody
happened
go.
during Carter's, where they found John Denver with 1,000 gallons of petroleum stored under his driveway by his house there. So anyway, it didn't do his environmental name much good.
It's the most visited place in Aspen.
Is it? Wow. Yeah. Good section on light pollution, seems like.
Yeah, certainly strengthen our existing ordinances. The good action item.
Yes. And make it retroactive.
Well, maybe a grant or some kind of, I don't know.
Well, Rendezvous has got a bunch of, they put the cheapest lights they could possibly put in, and then all of those garages that are freestanding, they are on all the time, and
Mhm.
it's just terrible.
Yeah.
So I think if we had something that was in writing, I could go to the homeowners meeting and strongly suggest that they replace the lights.
Yeah. Improve the lighting.
Yeah.
That's something the homeowners association would do.
They should.
I mean, if they took it upon themselves to do it, they
Yeah.
could create some
Yeah, you
program
mean
to.
some kind of a grant thing where you've got, yeah, and it's all consistent and everybody does the same thing.
Then you've got the energy efficiency here in 2.1.
Mhm.
And the sustainability plan that we talked about earlier.
Yep. Yep.
And we're keeping ahead of the drop all right with size wise, the amount of material moving through there, or?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I think, but certainly we could always promote its use. I know composting services at the drop is something that's been discussed. Certainly the town should at least study that feasibility of how to implement that. So,
Yeah,
I can tell you, Andy, for the composting, we're working with a consultant with Fraser and Winter Park to see what sites could work based on the size of parcels available and infrastructure.
yeah. Are you looking at a regional approach to it at all, or just,
We're looking everywhere within the county, honestly.
Yeah.
They've talked to Rage Creek, but Sarah's was spearheading that, and I think they're going to be providing a final report here soon,
Yeah,
as far as their recommendations for approaching that. But just at the drop, based on the size requirements you need for that type of operation,
that's not big enough, yeah.
it's really not big enough,
So have you looked at is the Kremling landfill too far?
probably.
Yeah,
I think the farthest they're looking at is like where Ranch Creek's operation is.
because the Kremling landfill has space. It's closed, of course, but I think there's enough room out there for it, so.
Yeah.
And then does Summit County have composting or?
I believe they have an operation at their recycling facility and landfill there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Okay.
they've studied that as well.
yeah. Or Kremling, you might be able to pick up that, but it sounds like they've already got it, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, just an idea.
There's opportunities in Kremling. You talking about the Kremling landfill, the previous landfill.
Yeah,
I think they've talked about that, but I'll make sure it's on their radar.
yeah.
Yeah.
You need payloaders and big piles is what it boils down to, so.
So promote greenhouse gas emission reduction. Is there any way to track this? I mean, I remember signing a resolution when I was mayor and we're gonna do this. That's great. We're gonna do it, but did we do it or how do we know we did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are ways to track and measure that, greenhouse gas emissions specifically. It's just essentially the town hiring someone to do that, analysis and reporting work on a annual basis, so.
Be kind of nice to be able to say we were sustainable and be able to prove it by someone telling us that we're doing it or we're not doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, and again, I think that is one of the things that the town should look to do, this, 2.3 strategy and its action items, again, just kind of revisiting that sustainability plan from 2016, doing a new inventory, thinking of some maybe new strategies and recommendations on how to implement and really, you know, achieve some of these goals, and really be diligent about monitoring it over time and not on a 10-year basis.
Any discussion on changing the town fleet over to electric or? Kind of specialize in cars that we've inherited from other places, I know, so.
Yeah, it is an action item in here. Converting both transit. I know the lift is, I think, acquiring electric buses this year. I think it's their first.
Yeah,
Is
first
what I've
one,
heard.
yeah.
But also town fleet vehicles to electric or hybrid electric. Again, as far as timeline of implementing that, it could just be on a budgetary basis. But I think with any, request to purchase a fleet vehicle, that's just something for the board to
Board's gotta
evaluate.
decide.
So, yeah, I'll tell you that when Paul goes to look at buying a new public works vehicle, they look at all the options and what functionally makes sense given our climate and what the risks are, what the trade-offs are. And as he's been looking at some new trucks and different things, he's looking at that, and vetting that with other communities that are at high elevation that maybe have tried this.
Yeah,
And based on my conversation with Paul, he says for snowplow equipment, given the torque and everything else that you need, it just doesn't seem to be there yet.
right.
But as we're looking at new vehicles, whether they're admin related or public works public works vehicles, he's looking at that option every time he goes to buy and just kind of looking at vetting it and seeing if the reliability is really there yet.
Yeah,
And my conversation with him, it doesn't seem to be there quite yet. Brian, you may remember this from memory, but I think Winter Park's plan is 2040 to replace all their fleet with electric buses. They did just order their first one. But 2040 is their plan to supposedly go 100% with a fully electric fleet
Across the lift, right? Yeah.
across the lift.
and I heard the other day that Volkswagen is gonna start buying solid state batteries at the end of the year. And the solid state battery supposedly would give a car a 600-mile range. Which at which point you can't drive any farther in a day, so. So I think we're kind of at the cusp of some battery technology too, that's gonna really be a game changer, so.
Sure.
The other thing for reducing vehicle miles traveled, I mean, this is again, going to be a thorny problem, but Breckenridge and these higher traffic areas, are the kind of place we're approaching is charging for parking.
Mm.
So just one more incentive for people to not bring their car or bring their car and set it in one place and use transit for the rest of it. We do have to improve our transit system. Is getting pretty good. Are we on half-hour frequency on most routes now, or?
So it's every 15 minutes during weekends and holidays on the Black Line,
Okay,
and then it's a half hour everywhere else,
yeah,
and then double that for each line during the week.
yeah. But 15 minutes to Fraser then basically
Mhm.
on the Black Line.
Yep.
So it just, I mean, you guys were talking at the last meeting, which I want to apologize that I wasn't here. Just flat spaced it after 11 years. I've never done that. I just did, but anyway. But you were talking about a downtown parking garage, and I think that, if we look at Breckenridge again, their model is parking garages outside the community and good bus systems into the community to keep that real estate within a walkable community. So at least worth considering. And then, of course, the Breckenridge model is you just, if you want to park downtown, these are programmable parking meters, and it costs a fortune to park in the community. So everybody is incentivized to leave their cars, out of the mix. So, and we're not quite there, but I think in our master plan, we really ought to be have that discussion of parking fees and just incentivizing driving. So all of us are paying a fortune to let everybody cruise around in their little cars. So
Yep.
Yeah, I know the reduced vehicle miles traveled is kind of a general broad statement. We do have some other sections that speak to parking. I think this is the transportation and mobility section that talked
Yeah.
about ultimately finding a balance between providing parking, but also making sure that we have a walkable community that has nice placemaking. So,
yeah, that's the multimodal transportation at 4.2.
mhm. Okay. Any other things from sustainability and natural resources, specifically? Okay, let's, the town services and infrastructure, pretty broad category. First goal is around providing services for residents of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities. So strategies around childcare and early education, senior services, multilingual, culturally inclusive communications, ADA standards, emergency preparedness is under this category as well. Strategy 2 is about expanding health services, or I should say goal number 2, strategies around increasing options for healthcare, expanding mental and behavioral health services, and integrating health into town programs. Goal 3 is about maintaining and enhancing our physical infrastructure, including water supply, incorporating green infrastructure into public streets, sewer and wastewater systems, mail delivery, recycling, having a updated capital improvements plan. So any comments, feedback on those?
Yeah, we talked about recycling and compost. So
Mhm.
the one thing we are lacking at the recycling center would be metal recycling. And I know that gets us into trouble with appliances and that sort of thing, but I don't know if there's any investigation of a possible way to recycle metal there, but
To recycle what, Andy? I'm sorry.
metal,
Metal.
yeah.
We actually do. We had that written to our contract. That was an option that's brought forward when we brought the Ranch Creek forward. So
Right.
we actually do. My understanding is we do have a dumpster at the drop that is used for metal.
For metal?
recycling.
Oh, we do. Okay. Oh, great. Okay.
So it's written in our contract, and The other major upgrade that I think would happen is once power is ran to the public works facility. If it is coming up the hill there, that we would be able to run power to the drop, and that could power something like a compactor that would make better use of space. So we could actually compact cardboard better, and better utilize the space.
Right. Okay. Okay, so on to parks.
Yeah. So the vision statement is that our parks, open space, trails, etc., enrich the community, provide fun places to explore, stay active, and enjoy a healthy environment. First goal is around protecting and enhancing our open spaces. Strategies include protecting and enhancing the Cousins Ranch open space specifically, ensuring that properties as they develop, they preserve natural features, and provide new or connect to existing public open spaces, and then promote responsible open space use through signage, education, and stewardship.
This is what we talked about too, the accessibility is these pocket parks, these corridors, so we make sure that everything is linked together so that we don't.
Mhm.
That's another way to reduce vehicle miles traveled, is people are able to get on their bicycle or their skis right at the front door and take off, so.
Mhm.
And just on, Prost 1.1, just a minor detail, but it says on the first bullet point, it says enhance both recreation and conservation. Let's flip, make it conservation and recreation, just because I still think our emphasis down there has been with conservation easement you guys are putting in place. So no big deal, but most of that area is going to be conserved down there. So,
How many acres is that? I mean,
well, if you,
Total or the conservation easement area?
total.
The total is north of 100, I want
yeah,
to say.
yeah, just over 100.
So that was in addition to the 136 acres that were on the east side in Rendezvous was dedicated, which was the 30% of the 400 acres.
The parcel along the Fraser River Trail that was given to the town as part of the Rendezvous development is included in that number that you just cited.
The 136 acres.
Yeah, that's planning area 4E from Rendezvous. But the entire Cousins Ranch open space also includes another parcel that was part of the Safeway development, essentially. So it's kind of those two. Yeah.
And again, the emphasis in this public parks. Just want to make sure we
Mhm.
aren't in the position of trying to accept private parks as part of this.
That was never the intention of the town, I
No,
believe.
no,
Parks means public.
yeah. And like Pros 2 says, a varied trail network, and it should be a very public trail network. So,
Yeah.
the private trails are not helpful to any of this either, so. And also that Pros 2, connecting the community to nature and nearby public lands. We're still working on, the Givalo Trail and the trails to the west, hopefully connecting, and then we lost our connection, well, from Winter Park Ranch to public lands to the east, so hopefully we can try and reestablish those, so.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
Well, we have them up through Rendezvous. Yeah,
and that hopefully will become an emergency access.
what's that?
Hopefully that trail will become an emergency access point
Yeah,
so that both Winter Park Ranch and Rendezvous can use it.
okay.
So hopefully that's in the works.
Oh, you mean by the bench trail there, or
Mhm.
there might become an emergency road through there, or? Okay,
That was, the Winter Park Ranch people did not want Rendezvous.
I
going
know,
through,
right, yeah,
but that lot was purchased by Rendezvous with that intention.
right,
And now with the fire danger, I think we need to
Yeah.
really be looking at as many access points as possible.
yeah.
Yeah, we're pushing
That's the
for it.
logical one.
Are you? Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Pioneer Trail loops there, but it has nowhere to go.
right,
So
exactly,
if the fire was going across north, all those people are stuck.
yeah,
So yeah, it makes a lot of
it's
sense.
good.
Any other comments on goal number 2 and those strategies related to trails?
Well, just continuity. I mean, that's the,
Mhm.
the main thing when we look at subdivisions, we need to see the big picture.
Yeah.
So what trails are nearby and what
Mhm.
ways those can be connected. So just like we do for road plans.
Mhm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like all the references to wayfinding. Obviously, it's something that we are actively working on now.
Yeah.
So, this is a living document. So
Yeah.
if we get if we get all the wayfinding in that we want, we can kind of trim that down in this document.
right.
But we need it right now. So
yeah. Does it talk about standards for wayfinding signs or?
earlier up it did.
Mhm.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, we're working with Winter Park Resort, Town of Winter Park, Town of Fraser, and the county to have kind of uniform signage. So as you go from one town to the next, you'll see the emblem at the top change. It'll be the Winter Park Resort sign, or it'll be the Town of Winter Park, or it'll be the Fraser logo. Just at the top. Other than that, it'll look
Signage,
identical
yeah,
too.
yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Goal 3 talks about indoor recreation opportunities. The strategies speak to, exploring potential field house or multi-purpose use facility, supporting the rec center, and expanding indoor programming offerings in existing buildings.
I think it would be great to have a bubble, you
Yeah.
know, just something that you
That's
can
true.
take down in the summertime, but then you put it up and you can have lacrosse practice and you can have soccer practice
Like
in
the one
there.
at Granby.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. My high school built one after I graduated.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, that's an upgrade.
Yeah. And then goal 4 is about inclusive and barrier-free access to public spaces. Again, expanding and protecting public lands, removing barriers to public spaces, and promoting public events and resources. And a last goal, maintain funding sources to support growth and improvements to our parks, recreation, open space, and trails.
So, any comments on that section or? So on transportation and mobility,
Mhm.
glad to see a quiet zone. That was really good news, Brian, that you had that we can do a quiet zone without $500,000 worth of crossing work.
Yeah.
But we'll have to push on the county for 5 too, hopefully. So,
Mm-hmm.
but also this TM 2.1,
Mhm.
or let's see where, I'm sorry, no, T 1.1 after the quiet zone, it talks about where is it there? The Parkway, sorry. Oh, yeah, I had that in the wrong place. We talked about the Fraser Valley Parkway somewhere.
TM 3.1.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So coordinate with Grant County and the completion of the Fraser Valley Parkway, but I think we should specify from County Road 73 to County Road 50. As I don't think we have any interest in the section going north from 5, because 5, I think, really serves that purpose. So, and the main thing we're interested in town is the section to the west of the community. So,
73 to 5.
yeah. Well, to 50, actually, it connects to 50
Yes.
at the bend there. So,
Oh,
and then 50
then
connects to 5. Yeah.
So then you've got the connection.
Yeah, you've got 5 already. So, Scott Bradley doesn't need a county road to. I mean, basically, that county road serves Denver Waterland and Scott Bradley, and that's it. So, and we really don't need it as a community. So,
I'm still open to it. But
yeah.
yeah.
Well, 5 is serving the purpose for a long time here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There needs to be some access out of that Scott Bradley's property, but,
That's up. Yeah.
I don't think it has to be.
All the way across.
highway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Anyway. So, but as far as our immediate need, I think is that section behind town here, so.
Yeah, so I added from 73 to 50.
Yeah,
Sure.
Um, yeah, I don't see any kind of centralized hub for transportation in Fraser. I think that would
could be
be
the
good.
train station plus more there.
Yeah.
Right, just, you know, if that's the train station, then it should also be the lift bus station. It should also be the Mustang
Yeah,
station.
Mustang's already
Yeah,
stopping there
yeah,
now. so-
Right.
Yeah.
But the owner of the station kicks everybody out except for Amtrak people.
I hear maybe that's selling or,
I mean, he would love to sell it
yeah,
for
yeah. A lot
But
of
he's
money.
not very
a lot
motivated on
of
the
money.
price.
Yeah, not too motivated. But yeah, we do need a transportation hub, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, and a transportation hub, I think needs a parking garage somewhere.
Yeah,
nearby.
possibly, yeah.
Be nice to have. I don't know where you put it.
Well, that is the model for, kind of these mobility hubs. It serves all modes. So you have parking, transit access, certainly proximity to the rail station if possible, so that it can integrate with those passenger rail services. So, yeah.
Okay, so downtown vision,
Yeah, so downtown vision, this is definitely the most fleshed out section. A lot of this was pulled from the DDA's plan of development to some degree. So, the comp plan is striving to be as consistent with that document that currently exists and is adopted already, and trying to maybe build off of it with some of the action statements, and maybe providing some more specifics, especially as it relates to the downtown vision plan that's been produced as part of this comprehensive planning effort. So, the other thing with the downtown vision recommendations is that there is a lot of overlap between, things that we've already talked about. I mean, even with the first goal, talking about walking and biking, kind of that non-motorized transportation, pedestrian and vehicular safety. So, probably a lot of things that we've already kind of touched on. I think the action statements just provide a bit more detail.
so on the DT 1.3, you talk about on-demand e-bikes. Do we want to increase the number of e-bikes running around or wonder if it's just bikes?
I think the intention is like a bike share system,
Yeah.
whether it's purely manual or e-bike
Yeah,
bike share. But the kind of concept to where a bike share system could or should the town implement something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I see you left out scooters.
yeah.
We
It's a
can
big thing in Europe. Every
Yeah.
kid, I mean, it's the next generation of fat Europeans because
Yeah.
everybody else over there is skinny.
Well, and the e-bikes over there too.
I mean, and these scooters, these kids, they don't walk anywhere.
we can reach out to Lime or whatever the
I
scooter
know.
companies are.
Well, the only thing I caution about having a program like that, the anything, where, you rent it by the hour or whatever, is in Denver, they got bikes scattered everywhere. People go wherever they're going and then they just ditch the bike,
Yeah,
and they don't return it to like an e-bike spot where you put it in a parking spot. They just, you
Leave it.
walk down the sidewalks and you see bikes laying over on
Yeah,
the side.
yeah.
So we don't want that in town.
yeah.
So, I've spent some time in Denver just with school and different things in the past and used the scooters a lot when I took the Mustang down for like a 4-day intensive class. And they charge you a large fee, which you can change and make larger if you do not return it to a station. So that way they're incentivized financially to return it to a station. instead of just keeping it laying around.
Is that a more recent change? Because I'm thinking back 2, 3, 4 years ago when I'd be down there, I'd just see scooters everywhere around town.
Scooters though, but not necessarily bikes. I think they're, yeah.
But
Same
I mean,
thing.
it was in effect when I was renting there, and I've been to different states before where they do the same thing.
Yeah,
Additionally, you can geofence where it can automatically turn off. For example, Andy, if you have concerns about like the Fraser River Trail, for example, and providing e-bikes that can go on the Fraser River Trail,
Yeah,
you can have it stop where the motor just will not run if you go outside the geofence that's set. So you
Yeah.
could set it to just be like the paved Fraser River Trail if you wanted to, so you're not facilitating more people flying along the Fraser River Trail along
Yeah.
blind willowed
that's a
corners
good idea.
and running
Yeah.
into people. So, and this last thing about, there's been discussion about scooters too. The only challenges with certain months, if you have anything falling on the ground, like a little bit of snow, some bikes could go through some of those seasonal months a little bit better than a scooter. If you have like an inch of snowfall or something like that.
right. Good point.
Okay, and then we're talking about designing streets for, this is, I brought this in, Michael. Hopefully you guys will have a chance to read Killed by a Traffic Engineer, but he just talks a lot in there about, as you make a street wider and straighter, people go faster and faster. And I love our new sidewalks, but Eisenhower's gonna have to be plowed all the way over to that sidewalk this winter, and it's gonna be interesting to see. Hopefully it doesn't just kind of invite more speed. Eisenhower's kind of a speedway, I'm afraid, up and down towards the railroad crossing there. So it's wonderful we did those, but about the only way we could do them was without a curb so that the snowplow can just clear it off, but it's just gonna look like a wider street, so I hopefully, and Margaret, there's the Sun River street is in here. And I guess we're in the midst of, I haven't really been updated on that much at all, but that's a controversial connection, I guess, so.
Yeah, it's tough because of the impact it's having on those townhomes,
Right,
taking away all their parking and yeah, it's a
Has-
problem.
has any kind of drawing been prepared of what that might look like over there?
We've just talked about it at a high level, Andy.
Okay.
And we actually had a conversation with CB Jensen, who we're going to be meeting with soon.
Yeah, and I talked to CB for quite a while about
And
this stuff.
and Bob Wolf has come in and talked to us, and Jim Buckerich, and we've
Yeah.
been having conversations with them about it. And it's kind of a high level concept we've been talking through. Our engineers have not been able to get to any kind of basic conceptual of what that could look like,
Right,
but they will eventually. And the
Sure.
idea is that we'll have a conversation with Sun River Drive condos and townhomes to look at, once we have a basic survey of that street and the width, identifying drainage problems and snow storage problems. I've already had conversations with some representatives from Sun River on that.
yeah,
And with Margaret herself, we walked down there with Bob.
Yeah.
So we're continuing to meet and talk to people about it. And the idea is to have a conversation where they can see a benefit, where we can help them address maybe some drainage issues and storm, some snow storage issues.
yeah,
And looking at the road, if we're able to do a two-way street, if that's possible, okay. But if after looking at it and the designs and the spaces that are available, if it really only makes sense for like a one-way street headed south, maybe that's what makes sense. But we're just kind of having those conversations and being able to provide that off-highway access to things like the grocery store without having to go down and turn south on Highway 40.
yeah,
I think would be a benefit to the homeowners as well. And as far as just the existing street, I think the impact would be 2, maybe 3 parking spaces there.
yeah.
But it's just having a conversation and see if we can work towards something that I think works on
This
both
is-
sides, where they kind of see the overarching community benefit.
But this is where some of these innovative street designs come in, and I sent you some pictures from Europe, and you see how, it's a fairly narrow street where it's a two-way street, but they park on both sides alternating, so that there's places where it's constricted to one lane. And if there's 2 cars coming from both directions, one of them's got to wait and the other one comes through. So again, this is the visual clues that keep people going slowly, because you try to keep a driver just slightly confused without creating a safety problem.
Right.
But instead of speed bumps, which is the typical way to slow everybody down, you design a street that is a little difficult for a driver to navigate. And the signs I sent you with the shared streets with people and cars, just to show that, that you have a picture of a person in a car and it says shared street, so that people understand that all over the community. But it's just ways that we can hopefully innovatively design our streets and still allow for snow plowing. I mean, that's the big thing here that we still have to be able to do is clear snow. And some of these bump outs, instead of parking, you bump it out with a tree. And they're doing some of that over in Rome now on some of those streets. So I just hope that we can look at more of that, and then the homeowners can see, a plan is helpful, and you guys are in those discussions, but we've got those kind of traffic problem points all over the community because a lot of decisions were made in the past subdivision by subdivision without tying this town together. So we're all in a pickle now because there's not 125 people in it here anymore. There's 1,600, plus how many thousands on a weekend. So I'm glad you guys are broaching some of these difficult problems. The Safeway connection off the visitor center over there. That's finally moving forward, and we just got to have a way for people to get across the community. But this talks a lot about pedestrians, bicycles, cars. And I hope we can get the sense from this that we get a right-of-way schematic where cars yield to bikes, yield to pedestrians, so that pedestrians are at the top of the heap, and everybody goes slow enough that actually happens. So, because with all this density, all these discussions we're having about piling people up, because it is a good idea, but we've got to get everybody slowed down too, and get everybody walking and biking around and not driving their cars as much as possible. So,
No, good points.
yeah. So I feel for you guys, Margaret. There's some tough questions down there, and these are going to be neighborhood questions that have real impacts on the way things have been for a long, long time. So, and I think year 3 of all the big, huge dump trucks going through our neighborhood seems to be wrapping up finally. They moved a hell of a lot of dirt out of Winter Park Ranch over the 3 years,
Yeah.
and what's happened to all those long bed dump trucks can't take the left turn at Safeway. So they've been using Doc Susie for 3 years right in front of my house, just one after the other. It's just that, and the drivers have been pretty courteous about it, but it's just we got to redesign that. Well, the other day that intersection, I don't know if it was tied up for I think 45 minutes while they got a long truck around that corner.
Oh,
Glenn
really?
had to come out with all the
didn't see that.
cops, and he got hung up on those islands out there, and the entire highway was shut down for.
Wow.
Well, they got him backed up and got him redirected out through the neighborhood. So that Safeway intersection is just a nightmare for trucks for sure. So
Yeah, they're completely redesigning that intersection.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, and you've got striping in here to delineate cyclist space. We've really got to think hard about that one because that really doesn't work very well even where you don't have snow for 7 months of the year. So. So anything more with DTV, Downtown Vision?
Garrett, do you guys have, you're providing, Pitch Materials is providing a conceptual design for this plaza area from the highway to the river. Is that captured in any of these objectives?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of captured by this 3.1 section. It, specifically references that downtown vision plan. So these action items here are specific to kind of parks and open space, and kind of incorporating that as part of that vision plan as part of the design review process. So
Cool.
Great. Yes, is the short answer.
Thanks. DTV 2.4, the first bullet point, it says short-term rentals to diversify housing options. I think you probably mean lodging, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Okay. And 2.2, increase foot traffic and visitation, could have maybe a second bullet point, again, we talked about, but some programs that reward visitors who come without cars.
Mm.
Maybe going through the buses occasionally and handing everybody some kind of voucher.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, I want to stop at bus stops sometimes when people are out in the cold and say, please, thank you for not bringing your car. And then DTV 3.3 talks about Clayton Court to the river.
Mhm.
So, and we've talked about this in the past, and maybe a fourth bullet point that talks about businesses and with patios in front on the river. That first building down there looks like it's pretty much residential on that side, which is important, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of covered by this bullet in 3.2.
Okay.
You know, evaluate
Oh, yeah,
the zone
ground.
standards, make changes that might affect active ground floor uses along the river.
Gotcha. There you go.
Um,
Yeah, it's there. Cool.
Yeah. The goal 4 is about, activities and events as well as high quality public realm design. Um,
I'd like to make a pitch for the Winter Park Film Festival to have
Sure.
Fraser spend some more money and activate Fraser with a block party and make this part of the activation events instead of, it kind of got put into the bucket with pets and childcare, and
Yeah.
that was really not the right bucket. It's really more of an activation of the community and an,
Can be off season too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
it's, yeah, it's right after Labor Day.
Yeah. I went to the Durango Film Festival and there were venues all over town.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's, but you have to support it because it's not something that just is gonna happen if you
Yeah.
don't.
Kind of like the Mural Fest, it's spread out through town too, so. So anything more for downtown vision?
yeah. Any other comments?
And so we come to intergovernmental coordination.
Yes, last but not least, so I believe it's last. So again, a lot of overlap here with some of the things that we talked about, but really the theme for this is working with our, neighbors to the south and the county, just as a whole, state entities like CDOT, and certainly the housing partnership. So.
So I just hope the word Winter Park is used more in this.
Okay.
It's in here quite a few times.
Yeah.
But there are our natural allies in so many of these different visions that we have. So,
Yeah, certainly.
and for government efficiency, I mean, you guys are the board's looking hard now at a public works facility, and Winter Park has a nice one on the north or south end of all the community.
Ours
wouldn't
is
it-
gonna be much better.
I know, but wouldn't it be nice to have for Winter Park to share that facility up here, and we had a common road department?
I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that would efficiencies of scale, especially in streets and roads. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they need better service on the west side of the tracks, and that's where ours is going, right? So anyway, just
Mhm.
that to me is one of the biggest opportunities for cost savings. And I don't know that we'll ever see the two towns combined, but we could certainly see the two towns combine in a lot of services.
Mhm.
And maybe one day everybody will go What? We aren't one town? Maybe,
Yeah, maybe. Transfer tax? Maybe.
yeah. But lots of good talk about Grant County too. Obviously, there's just
Yeah.
so much need to cooperate and work with Grant County, so.
Okay.
Great. Well, I really appreciate all the discussion, all the feedback. Certainly took some notes here, changes and additions and things like that. So we'll continue to craft this text document as we work to adopt the comprehensive plan later this year. So
One other, so
Oh.
we got to Office of Management and IC 5.4, we're talking about disaster preparedness. And you got regarding the prevention, response, and mitigation of natural and human-made disasters, we just need to really think hard about prevention. That's the thing that seems to, we're all falling down on, is trying to foresee what's coming and doing what we can to help it before it happens, mitigate it before it happens.
Yeah, it's
Certainly.
pretty shocking to watch what's going on in Texas.
Yeah.
Finger pointing and
Yeah.
the lack of planning and just really sad.
And you look around this, up in the mountains, these, what Dorados, they call them? Where these
Derechos?
derechos. Just think if one of those hit town, and these are tornado events, they're tornado/hurricane events. And there's nothing that says one of those can't end up on the valley floor down here, so.
Hmm.
And maybe we need to look at our building codes a little more within mind that we're not outside of Tornado Alley. Whatever they are, they're 250-mile-an-hour winds, it looks like, so.
Garrett, I have one last thing to say. I liked it. 21 pages long. It was a long read.
Yes.
And I kept thinking to myself over and over again, measles,
Okay.
measles. You know, a measles chart?
I'm not familiar.
Okay. We've got so many references that are interrelated. I was thinking if I was just looking at this for the first time, which I was essentially looking at it, it would be kind of nice. A measles chart is where you, on different axes, you have different things and you put dots so you can see the interconnectedness of everything. And I was just thinking if there was a simple visual way that we could demonstrate how this whole plan fits together and is so interconnected, because every time I would read, oh, and that was covered in section, and I would go, oh yeah, that's right, yeah. So there's all kinds of connections made throughout this document. I'm just suggesting if we looked at some kind of a graphic presentation for someone who is trying to comprehend what all of this means, they could see that it's all not dispersed. It's all very interconnected and very doable together as one plan.
Might help us consolidate it some too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely valid comment. I would just maybe state that what we viewed was simply just to try to evaluate the text statements themselves,
Right.
and that as the comprehensive plan, the kind of formatting and glossing up of it, if you will, gets put together over the coming months. I think visual aid, some sort of chart or implementation matrix or something like that
Yeah.
will certainly be
We
part
used
of
to
it.
call them measles charts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So you looked it up there.
Yes, I see. It is a real thing.
it is a real
So, yeah.
We're gonna get into a
Not really
discussion of
good
vaccinations.
Yeah.
Vaccination. Missed that.
But yes, it's a totally valid point. Again, I think as the actual text and content gets finalized, there will be some formatting to help simplify
Yeah.
the usability, the readability of this document, certainly. So,
Sounds like a good project for AI.
yeah.
And as of today, unregulated AI, so.
That's right. I bet you could give that task to AI and she, whatever, whatever sex it is.
They.
They would whip you out a measles chart.
righty. So any other business? Any future agenda items?
I can just briefly mention them. We will have a couple sketch plans coming forward in August. One for Meyer Lot 1 and then another for planning area 2W.3 in Grand Park. This was part of the Village at Grand Park proposal that was submitted last year and then ultimately withdrawn. So that's coming back as a sketch plan. So the Planning Commission will have an opportunity to review that and provide some formal feedback, as well as a sketch plan for Meyer Lot 1. I know last month we mentioned kind of the state law around non-functional turf prohibition. We'll have to bring that forward later in the year. We're currently targeting September. So I know everyone's waiting with bated breath for that. But that's currently the main things for August. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Again, once again, I apologize for not being here Wednesday.
It's all good.
Finally got my